What if the man of your wildest dreams offered you a fortune to play house, but only if you promised never to fall in love? I laughed at the thought that morning, right before the universe decided to punch me in the gut. It was one of those crisp October dawns in Manhattan, the sun slicing through the skyscrapers like a golden scalpel, carving shadows that danced across my fire escape. I was Aria Voss, 28-year-old starving artist with paint under my nails and dreams bigger than my bank account. My loft, affectionately dubbed the Closet of Creativity, overlooked a bustling alley where delivery trucks idled like impatient beasts, their exhaust mingling with the scent of fresh bagels from the cart below. I'd been up all night hunched over my sketchpad, coaxing a half-finished portrait of a faceless lover from charcoal smudges. He had eyes like storm clouds, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. Little did I know, he'd walk into my life by noon. The knock came at 9:15, sharp and insistent, like fate tapping its foot. I yanked open the door, expecting my nosy neighbor Mrs. Kowalski with her passive-aggressive notes about noise levels. Instead, there stood Tony, the building's enforcer, a mountain of a man in an ill-fitting polo shirt, clipboard in one meaty fist, eviction notice in the other. His face was all business, etched with the boredom of a guy who'd ruined 100 dreams before breakfast. "Miss Voss," he drawled, voice gravelly from too many cigarettes. "Rent's overdue. Again. This is your final warning. Out by noon or the locks get changed." My stomach plummeted faster than a rejected canvas into the East River. 3 months behind 4,500 that might as well have been a million. I'd poured every dime from my barista gigs and sporadic freelance illustrations into art supplies and that godforsaken big break that never came. Galleries in Soho laughed me out the door. Online sales? A trickle of pity likes on Instagram. I snatched the notice, crumpling it in my fist, the paper's edges biting into my palm like tiny accusations. "Tony, come on, just a few more weeks. I've got a lead on—" "Save it." He cut me off, already turning away. "Boss don't do charity. Pack your brushes, kid. Streets are full of dreamers." He lumbered down the hall, leaving me staring at the peeling wallpaper, heart hammering like a trapped bird. Noon. 4 hours and 20 minutes to dismantle a life built on borrowed time. I slammed the door, sliding down it until my butt hit the scarred hardwood floor. Tears stung, hot and furious, but I blinked them back. Crying wouldn't pay the rent. Neither would pride. That's when my phone buzzed a lifeline from hell. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but desperation has a way of making you reckless. "Hello?" My voice cracked, raw as an open sketchbook. "Aria Voss." The timbre was velvet over steel, low and commanding like aged whiskey poured neat. A pause, then, "This is Damien Hale. We need to talk. Now." Hale. The name hit, like a thunderclap. Tech wunderkind, Forbes cover boy, the guy who'd built Hale Innovations from a garage hack into a billion-dollar empire of AI and apps that predicted your next heartbreak before you felt it. I'd seen his face splashed across billboards, dark hair tousled just so, green eyes that pierced like emeralds under interrogation lights. What the hell did he want with me? "How did you get this number? And why should I—" $500,000. His words sliced through my panic, crisp as autumn leaves underfoot. "For 6 months of your time. Meet me at Café Lumiere on 5th and 57th in 30 minutes. Don't be late." Click. The line went dead, leaving only the echo of traffic rising like a siren's call. I should have deleted the call log and bolted for the subway, visions of yellow cabs and cardboard boxes flashing in my mind. But 500 grand. That was freedom rent paid, a real studio, canvases stacked to the ceiling. Or a trap wrapped in dollar signs. Heart racing, I threw on my least-stained jeans and a thrifted blouse that hugged my curves like a secret, finger combing my wild auburn waves into something resembling poise. A quick swipe of lipstick blood red. My armor and I was out the door, sketches abandoned like fallen soldiers. Café Lumiere was a jewel box of a spot, all polished brass and murmured French, sunlight filtering through etched glass to paint the marble floors in kaleidoscope patterns. The air hummed with the aroma of espresso and fresh croissants, a world away from my alley view despair. I spotted him immediately, tucked in a corner booth like a panther in pinstripes. Damien Hale in the flesh was lethal, tall, broad-shouldered, his navy suit tailored to sinful perfection, over a crisp white shirt unbuttoned just enough to tease the ink of a tattoo curling at his collarbone. Those eyes locked on me as I approached, intense and unblinking, like he could see the eviction notice branded on my soul. Miss Voss. He rose halfway, a gesture both courtly and commanding, gesturing to the seat across from him. Up close, he smelled like sandalwood and success, a cologne that wrapped around you like a dare. Thank you for coming on short notice? I slid into the booth, knees brushing his under the table, a spark I ignored. You drop $500,000 on the line like it's coffee change, Mr. Hale. What's the catch? Because there is one. Always is. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips, not reaching those eyes. He signaled the waiter a black coffee for him, cappuccino for me before leaning in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. Straight to it then. I need a wife. Temporarily. You'll play the part for 6 months, public appearances, board meetings, the occasional gala. In return, 500,000 wired upon signing plus expenses. Penthouse living, wardrobe upgrades. No strings, no mess. Contract ends clean. I choked on air, the foam from my untouched cappuccino forgotten. Wife? Me, the girl who'd burned through 3. Fiancé in college before swearing off rings altogether? You're insane. I'm an artist, not an escort. And why me? You've got models and moguls lining up to fake marry for a fraction of that. His gaze flickered, something shadowed passing through like a storm cloud over those emeralds. Because you're real. No scandals in your rear view, no socialite baggage. I had my people vet you. Broke but brilliant. Desperate enough to say yes, smart enough not to ask too many questions. He slid a sleek folder across the table, gold embossed, heavy with legalese. Inside, the contract, pages crisp as fresh snow, outlining NDAs, NDAs within NDAs, and a clause about emotional detachment underlined twice. My fingers trembled as I flipped through it, numbers blurring into salvation. $500,000 could buy back my life hell, build a new one. But his eyes on me felt like a brush stroke, bold and invasive, stirring colors I'd long buried. What was he hiding behind that billionaire mask? A crumbling empire? A broken heart? And why did the thought of pretending to love him twist something fierce in my chest? The cafe clock ticked mercilessly 10:45. Tony's noon deadline loomed like a guillotine. One question, I whispered, pen hovering. What happens if it stops being pretend? Damien's jaw tightened, a muscle feathering there. It won't. Sign Aria or walk away broke. The sun slanted through the window, bathing us in false warmth as my pen met paper. Ink bloomed like a bruise, and when his fingers brushed mine accidental, electric, I wondered if I just inked my own undoing. What the hell had I done? The ink was barely dry on that cursed contract when Damien's world swallowed mine whole. 1 minute, I was nursing a lukewarm cappuccino in Café Lumiere, the sun mocking my fresh signature. The next, his sleek black SUV was whisking us through midtown traffic toward Teterboro Airport. Vegas, he said, as if eloping to Sin City was just another boardroom decision. Quick, clean, and legally binding. No family drama, no second thoughts. His profile was chiseled against the window, jaw set like he was negotiating a merger, not a marriage. I clutched the folder to my chest, the weight of it grounding me against the vertigo of what I'd just done. 500 grand. A penthouse. And him, 6 months of Damien Hale, up close and unfiltered. God, what had I gotten myself into? The flight was a blur of champagne flutes and forced small talk. His private jet smelled like leather and quiet luxury, the kind that whispered, "You're out of your depth," with every sip. I stared out at the clouds, wispy veils over the Rockies, while he reviewed emails on his tablet. "Rules," he said finally, not looking up. 1. Publicly, we're besotted newlyweds, hand-holding, adoring glances the works. 2. Privately, boundaries. No questions about my past, no expectations beyond the script. 3. Exit clause at 6 months, no contact after. His voice was all business, but when our eyes met, there was a flicker curiosity? Pity? It vanished as quick as it came. I nodded, popping a strawberry from the charcuterie board to hide my swallow. Got it. I'm your Oscar bait, not your soulmate. We landed in Vegas as the strip ignited for the night, neon veins pulsing under a velvet sky. The chapel was a kitschy fever dream Elvis impersonator in sequins, plastic roses wilting under fluorescent lights, and a justice of the peace who looked like he'd rather be hitting blackjack. Damien stood at the altar in a charcoal suit that hugged his frame like sin, exchanging vows with the detachment of a man reciting stock prices. I, Damien Alexander Hale, take thee, Aria Voss, to honor and cherish, for the term of this agreement. The officiant chuckled nervously. I forced a laugh, my white sundress pulled from a last-minute boutique stop, feeling like tissue paper over my pounding heart. When it was my turn, I ad-libbed, voice steady despite the tremor. And I take you, Damien, to play the part, and maybe surprise us both. His gaze sharpened, a spark in those emerald depths. But the Elvis crooned, "Viva Las Vegas," and it was done. Rings exchanged platinum bands engraved with temporary forever, and just like that, I was Mrs. Hale. On paper, at least. Back in Manhattan by dawn, the city stirred under a hazy sunrise, honking taxis heralding our new charade. Damien's penthouse atop Hale Tower was a glass-walled eyrie, 5,000 square feet of minimalist opulence overlooking Central Park. Marble floors gleamed like frozen lakes. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline as if it bowed. To him, my side of the master suite came with a walk-in closet, bigger than my old loft, and a balcony where I could sketch the dawn without eviction notices. He showed me around like a tour guide, pointing out the panic room for boardroom leaks, and the wine cellar stocked with vintages older than my regrets. "Make yourself at home," he said, handing over a keycard. "But remember, this is a set. Lights, camera, action starts tonight." The tequila in that evening's gala was my trial by fire, a black tie affair at the Met, crawling with venture capitalists and venture vultures. I emerged from the closet in the emerald gown he'd suggested, silk whispering against my skin like a lover's promise, diamonds at my throat, heavy as secrets. Damien's eyes raked over me as I descended the spiral stairs, something primal flashing before he schooled it. "You clean up well, wife." His hand settled at my waist for the paparazzi gauntlet firm, warm, sending traitorous shivers up my spine. Inside, crystal chandeliers dripped light like liquid gold, and the air buzzed with whispers. Who was this nobody on Hale's arm? I played my role smiling through small talk, charming a silver-haired investor with tales of my passion for urban abstracts, while Damien's thumb traced idle circles on my hip. It felt too easy, too electric. Over flutes of Vive, we stole a moment by the Monet, his breath ghosting my ear. "You're a natural." Our laughter mingled genuine, over the absurdity of bad caviar. And for a heartbeat, the contract faded, but cracks spiderwebbed in fast. Later, as we posed for toasts, a sleek blonde in a crimson gown slinked up Vanessa, Damien's ex, her smile all teeth and venom. "Darling? Married? To her?" She eyed me like yesterday's news. How quaint. Careful, Aria Damien's alliances burn hot and fast. He stiffened, steering me away with a murmured old history. But the seed lodged. What skeletons did he bury under that boardroom armor? And why did her barb twist in my gut like jealousy? By midnight, back in the penthouse, exhaustion hit like a wave. I kicked off my heels in the foyer, the cool marble a balm, when Damien cornered me against the kitchen island. Tonight was flawless, but that laugh earlier... His voice dropped, husky in the dim light. Don't get ideas, this is business. Rejection laced his words, sharp as shattered crystal. I fired back, heat rising. Ideas, please, you're the one who can't keep his hands to himself. The air crackled, his face inches from mine anger, desire, before he pulled away, storming to his study. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone with the echo of my racing pulse. Why did his walls feel like a personal affront? And why did walking away feel like the hardest vow I'd ever broken? The penthouse fell silent after Damien's door clicked shut. The kind of quiet that amplifies every creak and sigh like the city itself was holding its breath. I lingered by the kitchen island, fingers tracing the cool granite edge, the ghost of his nearness still tingling on my skin. Business, he'd said, as if I needed the reminder. I poured a glass of water from the filter jug, gulping it down to drown the heat in my cheeks, then retreated to my side of the suite. The king-sized bed mocked me with its pristine sheets, a far cry from my lumpy futon back in the loft. I stripped off the gown, letting it pool like spilled ink on the floor, and crawled under the covers in nothing but silk pajamas that whispered against my thighs. Sleep came fitful, haunted by flashes of his emerald stare and Vanessa's venomous smile. What was this pull? Stockholm Syndrome for the ultra-rich? Dawn crept in like a thief, painting the walls in soft peach hues through the blackout blinds I'd forgotten to close. By 7 a.m., the scent of espresso pulled me from bed Damien, already suited up, manning the machine like a barista god. He didn't acknowledge last night's frost. Instead, he slid a steaming mug my way, black with a splash of oat milk, just how I'd mentioned offhand at the gala. Truce? His voice was gravelly from lack of sleep, a tentative olive branch. I took the cup, our fingers brushing again deliberate this time, and nodded. Truce, but if you pull that hands to yourself line again, I'm billing you for therapy. A chuckle escaped him, low and genuine, cracking his armor just a hair. It was the first real laugh I'd heard, and damn if it didn't sound like music. Days blurred into a masquerade of domestic bliss, the contract's fine print fading under the weight of routine. Mornings, I'd claim his sun-drenched studio a glass-walled haven on the mezzanine. Easels lined like soldiers, shelves groaning with imported pigments. I'd lose hours there, charcoal flying across paper, capturing the skyline's jagged pulse or, guiltily, the curve of a certain jawline from memory. Damien would wander in mid-afternoon, tie loosened, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with quiet strength. "What's that?" he'd ask, peering over my shoulder at a half-formed sketch of tangled lovers under city lights. I'd shrug, heat blooming. Just inspiration. His proximity was a drug sandalwood cologne, mingling with the earthy bite of graphite, his breath stirring the fine hairs on my neck. Nights were worse, or better, depending on the lie I told myself. Paparazzi swarmed the lobby like locusts, their flashes turning every errand into a spectacle. "Mr. Hale, is the whirlwind romance real?" one shouted as we dashed to the SUV, Damien's arm a steel band around my waist. Inside, he'd exhale, rubbing his temple. "They smell blood in the water. Board's been grilling me, want proof this marriage stabilizes the stock." To sell it, we'd stage moments, a candid photo op in Central Park, me, feeding him gelato from a waffle cone, laughter bubbling real as the strawberry dripped down his chin, or that practice kiss for a society spread his lips on mine in the elevator, meant to be chaste, but it lingered, deepened, his hand cupping my nape as if anchoring a storm. We broke apart, gasping, eyes locked in the mirrored walls, reflections multiplying the heat. Method acting, he murmured, thumb grazing my lower lip. But his pupils were blown wide, betraying the script. Under the glamour, cracks deepened. One midnight, insomnia drove me to the kitchen for herbal tea. Damien was there, silhouetted against the window, nursing scotch neat. Thunder rumbled over the park, rain lashing the glass like accusations. "Can't sleep," I ventured, perching on a stool. He turned, shadows carving hollows under his eyes. "Ghosts," he said simply. Then miracle of miracles unraveled a thread. Orphaned at 12, bounced through foster homes before hacking his way to Harvard. Learned early, trust no one, build walls higher than Hale Tower. His voice cracked on the last word, vulnerability raw as an exposed canvas. I reached across, squeezing his hand. Walls keep out the rain, but they trap the light too. For a moment he held on, thumb stroking my knuckles, the air thick with unspoken what-ifs. I journaled it all in a leather-bound book hidden under my pillow pages filling with confessions. His laugh undoes me. This crush is contractual suicide. Stupid, Aria, so stupid. But the heart doesn't read fine print. External pressures mounted. Board emails pinged Damien's phone at all hours, demanding authenticity audits. A glossy mag ran a puff piece on us, but the comments? Vicious. Gold digger alert. Hale's midlife crisis much? Then the leak hit like a grenade. I woke to my phone exploding texts from my bestie Lena. "Girl, what the hell?" Check TMZ. Heart slamming, I tapped the link. Blazing headline, Hale's honeymoon hoax, insider spills, fake wife for stock surge, grainy photos from our Vegas chapel, time-stamped wrong, spliced with contract snippets blurred but damning. Vanessa's handiwork? The internet ignited, sham marriage trending, stocks dipping like a bad bet. Damien burst in, face thunderous, phone in fist. "It's out! We need damage control now!" But as sirens wailed below, blending with the storm's fury, one question burned hotter than the scandal. How deep did the betrayal run? And whose knife was twisting first? Damage control kicked off at warp speed. Damien's crisis team swarming the penthouse like suited hornets before the rain even stopped pattering against the windows. By noon, the storm outside had cleared to a brittle blue sky, but the one in our lives raged on sham marriage, spiking to 1,000,000 tweets. Hale Innovation's stock hemorrhaging points faster than a bad hangover. "We go public with the romance," Damien declared over a war room conference table littered with laptops and lukewarm lattes. His eyes, bloodshot but steely, flicked to me. "Intimate, undeniable. A getaway somewhere remote, photogenic. Sell the love story, bury the leak." His PR shark, a whip-thin woman named Riley with a Bluetooth earpiece glued to her skull, nodded furiously. "Aspen, snowy cabin, roaring fire. Leaked candid shots via trusted influencers. Timeline, wheels up in 2 hours." I barely had time to pack a duffel before we were airborne again, the jet slicing through cotton candy clouds toward Colorado's jagged peaks. The cabin was a timbered fortress tucked in a pine-shrouded valley, all vaulted ceilings and stone hearths that screamed billionaire rustic. Flurries danced outside the frosted panes as we arrived at dusk, the air crisp with wood smoke and unspoken tension. Photographers Riley's inner circle lurked discreetly on the ridge, lenses hungry for the facade. "Action," Damien murmured, pulling me into a staged embrace on the porch, his lips brushing my temple in a kiss that tasted too much like truth. Cameras clicked like distant applause, but when he didn't let go right away, my pulse stuttered. "For the gram," he whispered, but his arms lingered, warm against the chill. The next days blurred into a fever of forced idle. Mornings, we'd trek snowshoe paths, my laughter echoing as I pelted him with powdery ambushes, snowballs exploding against his parka like white fireworks. He'd retaliate with mock ferocity, tackling me into a drift, our breaths mingling in frosty clouds. One tumble went sideways. I twisted wrong, ankle wrenching with a sharp pop that sent stars bursting behind my eyes. Shit, Aria. Damien scooped me up effortlessly, cradling me back to the cabin like I weighed nothing, his face etched with something rawer than concern. By the fire's golden glow, he knelt to bind the swelling with practiced care ice packs and ace wraps from the first aid kit, his fingers gentle on my skin, tracing the arch of my foot like a secret map. Hold still, he said, voice low, but his eyes met mine across the flames, holding longer than the script demanded. Vulnerability cracked through. The boy from Foster Shadows, now bandaging a stranger wife. In that fire-lit hush, with embers popping like confessions, my heart tipped over the edge. This wasn't acting. Not for me. Doubt gnawed later, as the ankle throbbed less and the getaway's magic waned. Over mulled wine by the hearth, Damien let slip fragments his uncle, Victor Hale, a silver-tongued serpent on the board, gunning for control of the legacy their grandfather built. The marriage clause in the bylaws, he admitted, swirling his glass, firelight gilding his profile. It locks out hostile bids if I'm settled. This isn't just stocks, Aria. It's blood keeping the company from turning into his casino scheme. His hand found mine, squeezing with unintended tenderness. Pawn or partner? The line blurred, my sketches back home now fever dreams of us, tangled in ways the contract forbade, but illusions shatter quiet. That night, as I limped to the kitchen for water, his study door stood ajar, voice carrying low on the phone. Yes, the wife's on board temporary fix, nothing more. She plays her part, gets her payout, and we're done. No complications. The words landed like ice shards, casual as discarding a napkin. I froze in the shadows, chest caving, the fire's warmth a cruel joke. Temporary. Just a part. I slipped away silent, ankle forgotten in the ache blooming deeper, curling under the covers with the journal's pages blurring through unshed tears. How much of this fairy tale escape was real, and how much just another layer of his gilded cage. The flight back from Aspen was a pressure cooker of pretense, the cabin's recycled air thick with the unsaid. Damien buried himself in reports, his profile a fortress against the window's endless white, while I nursed my ankle in silence, wrapped in a cashmere throw that smelled faintly of him. That overheard call replayed like a bad loop temporary, nothing more, each word a chisel to the fragile bridge we'd built. By the time we touched down in Manhattan's metallic dusk, resolve had hardened in my chest. No more blurring lines. I'd play the wife, cash the check, and guard my heart like the sketches I now hid under lock and key. Back in the penthouse, I retreated to the studio, barricading myself with turpentine and half-finished canvases. The piece I'd started in secret took shape under the halogen glow, a fevered portrait of Damien, not the mogul mask, but the man from the firelight, eyes softened by scotch, hands scarred from Foster-forged resilience. Charcoal smudged my fingers black as midnight doubts, each stroke a confession I couldn't voice. Days stretched into a high-wire act of detachment. At board luncheons in glassbox restaurants overlooking the Hudson, I'd paste on smiles, murmuring, "Darling," over seared scallops while his knee brushed mine under the table, accidental torture. Evenings brought galas dripping in crystal and cruelty, where socialites dissected me like a fresh exhibit. Hale's latest acquisition, how pedestrian. I'd laugh it off, arm loop through his, but inside, the walls echoed with Vanessa's echo. Subplots snarled tighter, pulling nooses. My best friend Lena called from Brooklyn, voice a lifeline laced with worry, during a rare solo moment in the spa-like bathroom, steam fogging the mirrors. Babe, this fairy tale reeks of contract fine print. He's got more red flags than a bullfight. Walk before you can't. Her words landed like rain on parched earth, stirring the mud of my denial. I wanted to spill it all, the ankle-binding tenderness, the snowball chases that felt like foreplay. But what good would truth do? It's temporary, I echoed Damien's script, hating the taste. Just playing house. Worse came from shadows closer to home. Victor Hale, Damien's uncle, slithered into the fray with a venomous grace, cornering me at a charity auction amid auctioneers' gavel cracks and champagne fizz. Silver-haired and sharp as a stiletto in bespoke tweed, he leaned in over a bidding paddle, breath sour with old scotch. My nephew's little game charming, but transparent. Enjoy the trinkets while they last. He slipped a glossy envelope into my clutch, winking like a conspirator. Inside later, under the penthouse's recessed lights, forged snapshots, time-stamped intimate moments of me with a faceless stand-in, angled to scream infidelity. A note in elegant script, end the charade, or the board sees this. Your debts? Pocket change compared to scandal. Rage simmered low that night, but so did something reckless. Damien found me, in the studio at 2 a.m., canvas half-veiled, frustration etched in my furrowed brow. Can't sleep? He asked, sleeves rolled, offering a glass of the Barolo we'd cracked earlier. Proximity ignited dry tinder, his fingers grazing mine as he took the brush, demonstrating a stroke with artist-esque precision born of forgotten hobbies. Words failed, bodies spoke. We collided against the easel, lips crashing in a storm of pent-up fury and fire. His hands mapping my curves like uncharted territory, my nails raking his back through silk. The studio spun, paint tubes tumbling, charcoal dust clouding the air as we surrendered on the dropcloth floor, breaths ragged, skin slick with sweat and revelation. Passion, raw and unscripted, erased the contract's cold ink for one stolen eternity. Morning light sliced through the blinds like Judgment Day, regret a bitter aftertaste on my tongue. Damien stirred beside me, tousled and tender, murmuring stay into my hair. But I slipped away, dressing in the bathroom's marble chill. Love or lust? The question clawed, unanswered, as I deleted Lena's latest text. Then my inbox chimed a nondescript sender, attachment heavy. I clicked, breath seizing. Bank records, timestamps from before the cafe meet, detailing my debts down to the penny. Notes in the margins, vetted. Ideal candidate. Proof Damien had known probed, selected like a line item in his ledger. Betrayal crystallized, sharp as shattered glass. The gilded cage had bars after all. The email's glow haunted me through the afternoon, a digital specter pinned to my laptop screen like a scar. Damien's team had burrowed into my life before the cafe steam even cleared credit reports, eviction filings, even my rejected gallery pitches dissected like evidence in a trial. Ideal candidate, the margins sneered, reducing my chaos to a checklist. By evening, fury had fermented into a storm of its own, mirroring the thunderheads rolling in over Central Park, dark and inevitable. I paced the penthouse's living room, the city lights fracturing through rain-lashed windows like broken promises. Damien emerged from his study at 7 p.m., tie askew, sensing the shift in the air. Aria, what's wrong? Not a question, an invitation to detonate. I hurled the printout at his feet, pages scattering like fallen leaves in the gale rattling the glass. This, you didn't just find me, you stalked me, knew every debt, every dead-end dream before you dangled your carrot. Was I ever more than a vetted prop? My voice cracked, raw as the lightning splitting the sky outside. He knelt to gather the sheets, face paling under the strobing flashes. But his eyes, those damn emeralds, held steady, storm-tossed but unyielding. It was protocol. Security. I had to know you weren't planted by Victor or the board. But Aria, listen. Thunder boomed, drowning his start. And I whirled toward the French doors, flinging them open to the rooftop terrace. Rain pelted like accusations, soaking my shirt to transparency, but I didn't care. The wind whipped my hair into a frenzy as I gripped the railing, the skyline a blurred watercolor of spires and secrets. He followed, jacket abandoned, shirt clinging to his chest like a second skin. I was protecting us, me, the company, you. From day one, it was more. The laughs, the sketches, that night in the studio. None of it scripted. Water streamed down his face, mixing with something that looked perilously like regret. I spun on him, chest heaving. Liar, you called me temporary on that call. A fix. And now this your vetting makes me feel like merchandise. Accusations flew faster than the hail now clattering the deck. Truth spilling in the deluge. His orphan scars fueling paranoia. Victor's whispers turning allies to snakes. The marriage clause a desperate gambit to shield the legacy from casino vultures. I swear, the feelings crashed in uninvited. Real as this rain. His hand reached for mine, slick and desperate, but I yanked back, the touch burning worse than the cold. Then his phone shattered the roar a priority alert from Riley, voice tinny over speaker. Exposé dropped. Victor's play full leak on TMZ, board feeds, contract scans, your vetting docs, the works. Stocks tanking 15, he's calling emergency vote tonight. The uncle's strike landed like lightning, illuminating the ruin. Headlines screaming Hale's fraudulent fairy tale with my face plastered beside Damien's. Debts exposed. Our romance eviscerated as a stock ploy. Victor's note from the auction. Child's play compared to this nuclear option. Damien's face crumpled. Not the mogul's mask, but the man's vulnerable, cornered. He's won! Unless... I stormed past him toward the elevator, heart a shredded canvas, tears lost in the downpour. The doors hissed open, but my feet rooted at the threshold, gut twisting with a traitorous pull. In my clutch, forgotten amid the chaos, a gallery invite, slipped under the penthouse door that morning. Not just any my name in gold emboss for a solo show at Soho's elite vanguard. Impossible. My submissions were dust. A quick scan on my phone en route down. Anonymous patron funding the slot. Whispers of a mystery backer who'd bought my online pieces quietly for months. Damien's doing his quiet investments in my sketches. The inspiration he'd feigned ignorance over. Leverage, not chains. The elevator dinged at the lobby. Rain-slicked marble echoing my footsteps. But I pivoted, thumbing the up button with renewed fire. Betrayal's blade cut deep, but so did his hidden grace. This breaking point wasn't the end, it was the forge. The elevator doors slid open on the penthouse level with a chime that felt like destiny's exhale. Rain still drumming a victory rhythm against the terrace glass. I stepped out, soaked to the bone, but burning from within. The gallery invite clutched like a talisman in my fist. Damien stood frozen in the foyer, backlit by the storm's silver glow, his shirt translucent and eyes wide with a mix of hope and havoc. "Aria!" he started, voice rough as gravel, but I closed the distance in 3 strides, shoving the embossed card into his chest. "This, the Vanguard show, the anonymous buys, it was you. All this time playing puppeteer in the shadows." He caught my wrist gently, rain dripping from my lashes onto his skin, mingling like shared secrets. Guilty. I saw your fire in those first sketches online raw, unapologetic. Couldn't let Victor or the world snuff it. But the vetting, the walls, I built them to survive, not to trap you. Thunder rolled, softer now, as if approving the unraveling. I searched his face, the mogul's mask stripped bare, revealing the boy who'd clawed from ashes. You should have trusted me with the truth, but you chose me anyway, not as a prop, but as me. His free hand cupped my cheek, thumb tracing the path of a stray tear I hadn't noticed. I choose you every damn day, Aria. Contract be damned. His gaze dropped to my lips, then back, fierce. This is real. Marry me for keeps. Words tangled in my throat, but action spoke truer. I surged up, kissing him with the fury of tempests unleashed salt and storm, and 6 months of stolen sparks. He groaned into it, pulling me flush against him, the world narrowing to the heat of his mouth, the steady thrum of his heart echoing mine. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, laughter bubbling through the downpour. Yes, I whispered, the word a vow sweeter than Vegas neon. But on my terms, no NDAs, no scripts, just us, chaos and all. The board's emergency vote loomed like a guillotine at midnight, Victor's expose of viral venom spreading through feeds. But I had a canvas of my own. The gallery, I said, pulling him toward the studio. Tonight, we crash it, expose him your way, with art. Damien's eyes lit, a grin cracking wide, the first unguarded one I'd seen. By 9 p.m., we'd commandeered the jet again, hurtling toward Soho as I unpacked crates in the cargo hold, prepping my pieces like ammunition. The storm cloud portrait of him, abstracts of our tangled nights, and a centerpiece triptych chronicling the fraud Victor's forged docs woven into gilded frames, timestamps bleeding like accusations. Vanguard Gallery thrummed under Soho's pulse, a converted warehouse aglow with halogen halos and murmuring elites. The doors burst open at 10:45, Damien's arm around my waist, my emerald gown aspen remnants swirling like victory flags. Gasps rippled as we unveiled the show early, spotlights hitting the triptych like judgment. This is the real Hale legacy, I announced, voice steady. Over the hush, microphone snatched from a stunned curator. Not stocks or schemes truth, Victor's lies exposed in every stroke. Phones whipped out, live streams igniting. Board members in the crowd paled as Damien flanked me, dropping the hammer. Digital forensics from his team, Victor's casino wires time-stamped and damning. Chaos erupted Victor, slinking for the exit. Collared by security, but the tide turned viral. Hail truth trending, stocks rebounding like phoenix fire. Under the gallery's cascading lights, amid applause and air kisses from converts, Damien drew me aside to a quiet alcove. The city hummed a distant serenade. He sank to one knee, not with a ring from a safe, but a simple sketch I'd drawn that morning, us, entwined under a canopy of stars, no contracts in sight. Aria Voss hail, if you'll have me, will you build this mess with me? For real? Tears pricked, joyful this time, as I hauled him up, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Every stroke, every storm. 6 months later, the penthouse studio overflowed with joint canvases, his hacks fused with my hues, while Victor rotted in a white-collar cage, the company thriving under our unscripted reign. No more pretense, just mornings tangled in sheets, laughter over burnt toast, and dreams sketched side by side. I'd fallen once, hard and unforeseen, but rising, that was our masterpiece.